Welcome back, everybody. I'm Sean LaFlock. I'm here with Scotty Hagness. This is Conversations, Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity. Scotty, how goes it?
It's going good here.
You making progress in that office there or what?
Well, the framing was done upstairs. The electrician was here this morning and hammered out the wiring in like a couple hours. And our ski ergs came in. I'm kind of excited. Threw one together this morning.
Whoa!
So
Nice, man. A couple new pieces of equipment, huh?
yeah,
That,
yeah.
that's
So
awesome. Have you played around a lot with the ski erg?
I actually haven't. I've used one back in
Yep.
the way back in the day. James Fitzgerald's wife bought him one for his birthday, and I happened to be in Calgary, and it was a seminar or workshop. I don't remember, but we all
Uh-huh.
rode a 500 on it, or skied a 500 on it at lunchtime that first day he got it. Outside of that, that's the only time I've touched one. But I've wanted one for a long time, so we're getting like three to, so we can use it in classes and things like that.
That's awesome. I mean, we were thinking about getting one for our gym, but I was like, you know what? Like, it'd be for like ID and hybrid clients or just like real training, that kind of stuff. But I think you need like good three pieces of any
Yeah,
monostructural equipment just so you can do classes with them if you're going to do station work or AMRAPs or that kind of thing.
exactly. That's
Partner
kind of what we
work.
thought. We actually ditched some of our rowers.
Uh huh.
We still have more than any other tech machinery like that. But this just allows us with multiple airdynes and multiple ski ergs now,
Yeah, just more
and the
variety.
rowers stations. And the only thing we have one Versa climber,
Yeah. But
but that's not going to go in the classes. But the ski ergs we will.
yeah,
Kind of
man,
nice.
that's awesome.
Little flexion based work.
Yeah, it seems like everything you do is almost extension based work. The bike is the bike, but yeah, the extension stuff is, we're always pulling. So our, lats and upper back are always so dominant. So yeah, we have. It's funny that you said up in Calgary because it brings to mind when I think we were the first time we were. I kind of crossed paths with you back in 2010. We were doing the OPT nutrition seminar up there, and then
Right.
everybody went over to the original like garage setup at James's place where OPT started. And I believe the weather there, they were having bad forest fires out
That's
west or
right. They
something
were.
or east,
Yeah.
and all of it was blowing. And I remember going for a run. I was like, oh, whatever, because it was just look cloudy. I'm like, oh, this is not a big deal. I got done with that run. I was just like, I feels like I ate an ashtray. So you, so you guys are going through something like that up in Portland right now, right?
Yeah, we're burning the gorge near here is 35,000 acre fire and
Good golly.
evacuations, and it's one of the most scenic areas on the west coast, and unfortunately it's pretty torched. And the main interstate is closed indefinitely through there, right, Interstate 84.
Uh huh.
So yeah,
Wow.
the fire isn't by it anymore. I guess there's like 2,000 trees that are damaged that could fall onto the freeway unpredictably, so they can't safely open it.
That sucks.
Yeah, and then you guys have the opposite end of the spectrum over
Yeah,
there.
freak. Yeah, we got Hurricane Irma barreling down about 500 miles wide, looking like it's probably going to stay really strong, either a 4 or 5 by the time it hits landfall. We have a huge, so it's probably going to be hitting Cuba tonight ish. So the biggest thing with it is as it gets into that warm, deep, warm water below Miami, that's going to actually make it bigger and stronger again. So it might get dissipated a little bit from Haiti and that kind of stuff and into Cuba, but that's where it's going to make the turn because farther west there's a high that's going to funnel it north. So, the peninsula of Florida is all about 200 to 300 miles wide, depending on where you are. So it's either going to go east, right down the middle, or maybe a little bit more to the west coast. But, I mean, there's going to be some devastating damage. Obviously, we've learned a lot of the lessons from the hurricanes that have come before. So, for instance, a lot of the telephone poles have been replaced with big concrete poles that go all the way down into the ground and get basically cemented into the ground. So, I think in that sense, they'll be able to get the electricity up a lot quicker. But if you have 140-mile-an-hour winds, you can anticipate that there's going to be a lot of outages as all the trees and stuff that are in South Florida are all palm trees and that kind of stuff. So there's probably not going to be as many trees down there. But there are a ton of other types of trees and that kind of stuff that are going to block roadways, especially as you get further up toward like the Orlando area. There's only three major highways that run down, north and south in Florida. There's some obviously other ones that are more B roadish, but 75, the Turnpike, and then 95, which basically runs up the East Coast.
Yeah.
Those are the three major roads, and if one or two of those gets blocked, because that so many people have evacuated, everybody's going to try to get back in all at once, and then you just
Oh
got
man,
pandemonium. So
I can only imagine. Yeah, with the if you have two of those cut off for whatever reason, or even one. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, we have like between 22 and I think 25 million people in Florida, and most of them live in South Florida. So you're looking at about probably, I would say, like 5 to 10 million people who got out. They're all going to try to get in at the same time. But luckily, we got out on Thursday morning very early, so we woke up at 3 a.m. and got out of there by 3:30. The usual drive to Orlando is between 2 and 2.5 hours, and we got up to Orlando in about 2 hours ish outside Orlando. That's where
Did you go the Turnpike or 95 or which way
we
did you?
started on 95, moved to the Turnpike, then back over to 95, and it was fine. Where there was
Oh,
a little bit
cool.
of
Yeah.
there was about a 20-minute delay in Port St. Lucie, but we got up to, I mean, it was flying up until there, so we try to make up as much time as possible. But like I said, we got to right outside Orlando in 2 hours, and that was the plan. We were trying to get there as quickly as possible because that's where it was going to get more and more congested, and we wanted to get gas. So it wasn't much of a problem. We got off at a station that was more of like not a service station. If you were trying to do a service station, that was trouble because you got cars. Everybody has the same idea. So you get off at a road where it's more of like a town, and it was no problem. We got right in, got gas. But that was the biggest thing because we didn't want to be sitting in traffic waiting for gas. That would have been a disaster. So we got through Orlando and then west of Orlando toward Ocala. We got hit with about an hour of traffic, which again that could literally just be traffic any day. It wasn't
Any day,
terrible at
right?
that
I
point,
would
right?
think. Yeah. Yeah.
Got through Ocala on to Gainesville, and then rather than going 75 up to 4 or to 10, we took like a little like 2-lane highway west. It's called 23 or 28, and it was great because it's going through towns and that kind of stuff. It's like a highway, but it was much better driving on that than a major highway, just because you can
Yeah.
see things, you get little towns and that kind of stuff. So it was a
Yeah.
good change of pace. And then at any of those points, you could just get off and get gas and get going again. And it took us a little while to get to Tallahassee. Once we got to Tallahassee, we stopped there for a little bit, and then we pushed on for another about 2.5 hours to get to our destination, which was Destin. Our destination was Destin. Beautiful beach town on the Panhandle here. We're all of about, you know, 200 miles west of Tallahassee. Nice thing about it is if we need to get out from here, it's not going to be too bad. And we can enjoy these next 2 days right on the water here. People are gracious. People actually were
Yeah.
gracious enough for this Airbnb.
Oh,
It
cool.
worked out well.
I was
And
supposed to
then,
ask where you're staying there. Yeah.
yeah, my
Does it look
fiance.
like a hotel room from just?
Yeah, it's nice. It's a beautiful, beautiful condo about 500 meters from the beach. Walking distance from the
Nice.
beach, and people are like,
Yeah.
"What are you crazy?" It's like, well, know the facts. Like, if you know this is going to be coming, get out. But the thing with everybody in South Florida right now, the thing's not coming until Sunday. So everybody was prepped and ready by Thursday night, and then you're just sitting around doing nothing for 48 hours. Most places are closed down just because people were getting out of town. So we closed up our gym on Thursday afternoon. We had some people help out. We're really, really generous to help out my partner Myra to get everything in, get everything organized. So then Friday it's closed, Saturday it's closed. I mean, there's not going to be much going on until probably Saturday. We should be experiencing a little bit of winds, and then Sunday it's going to hit landfall in South Florida before it starts getting nasty. But again, we're in the Panhandle here, so we have some escape routes if it does shift further west. So, yeah, I mean, all well and good, but it was very interesting actually to see the mindset of people and how doing fitness and getting to class could be a bit of escape from that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it was good in that sense, and you got to have the kind of mindset where you can't really control the outcome 2 days from now, so you might as well just be present and enjoy what you have
Yeah.
while you
Yep.
have it.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. We have some stress. There's a certain amount of mourning around here because this is like our beautiful feature of this area, and it's kind of being devastated. It'd be
I
kind of like you
know.
guys' beach turning into essentially somewhat unusable for pretty much the rest of your life before it'll ever look the same
Yeah.
again. So you can
Yeah.
see why people are, yeah, kind of walking around kind of
Yeah.
somber.
Yeah, that's a good point. For you guys, I mean, we can rebuild the beach relatively easily. They have it in place where they basically dredge up the sand, they put it back on there. It is what it is. Everybody goes back. But yeah, you might see like a lifetime of trees just gone, which is like you said, a very somber kind of thing. But I imagine like some of those trees, it's part of their life cycle as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's the thing. We have to put it in perspective, right? That it's not like there were not fires. Unfortunately, this one was started by knuckleheads throwing fireworks in a canyon.
That's what I
Um,
heard.
but
That sucks.
knowing how many people visit that area, it's a little bit amazing that nothing like this has happened,
I was gonna
to this
say, yeah,
point. To be, completely honest. So,
yeah.
anyway,
Yeah, aside from all the
natural
natural
disasters
disasters that are
going
going
on.
on right now, I was actually thinking about some ideas for upcoming, pre um, open camps. This is something that I was like, hey, I've got some time, and I sat down and started. An idea came to me because I'm here in like a destination town. And I was like, what'd be cool if they had one of those like pre CrossFit Open camps where you actually stay and you train and that kind of stuff. So it was funny because last week I actually spoke Nicole Boger, who's she runs a triathlon club out of my facility. She actually had a grant from the USA Triathlon Para Triathlon. She has affiliations with the U.S. Navy, and she applied for a grant and got it. So, para triathletes from the U.S. military got a scholarship to do a triathlon camp. So it was like a
Wow.
Thursday through Monday deal where they did bike analysis, swim analysis, run analysis. They did all sorts of training. They did a sprint triathlon one day. So they all stayed in a big Airbnb together, and then they were doing workshops and they were doing workouts and that kind of stuff. I was like, wow, what a great idea! And I got to participate in it because I did a talk on postural restoration relative to breathing in the sport of triathlon. I have a triathlon background, so I can kind of relate to that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
as I got done with it and then came up here, I'm like, how cool would it be to have another destination type deal for CrossFit athletes? Get out of the Northeast because everybody's probably freezing their butt off, or not even the Northeast, anywhere north, freezing their butt
Yeah.
off during the winter. And they were like, you know what, get away for 4 or 5 days and do a camp. And I was kind of thinking about some things because my fiance works with baseball players and is very, very, very apt at doing shoulder care work. So that could be a workshop, gymnastics workshop, row workshop, things that might prep you for the open. And then it's not necessarily because there's only so much working out you can do, but there's a refinement of skills within a workshop or within a workshop type deal. So like, all right, we're going to talk about breathing. We're going to talk about pacing. We're going to talk about technique of certain areas and that kind of stuff. So a couple workouts a day and then like 2 to 3 workshops a day for about 4 days. It's a great place. We can do like meal delivery and prep through one of the companies that we do. I mean, like some really, cool little ideas that I had. Just kind of wrote them down this morning. I was like, you know what? Like, hey, I have some time. Let me kind of think about this. What's
Oh
your
yeah.
thoughts on something like there, Scott?
I think that's, I've thought about that sort of thing on a number of occasions as well. And,
Yeah.
it's certainly worked in a number of other areas. Well, like you said, the triathlon club put, put one on. I know there's obviously we have heard of like Nito's movement camps, which are
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And I know of other movers that have done them and in, even in foreign countries and people will
Mm-hmm.
come to them. That sounds awesome. I mean, I
Yeah.
have to believe people would like that, do that, especially if we can really put out some quality and something that's a little different than
Yeah, I know
some
Power.
things
I
that
know
are already
Power
done.
Monkey does one, and I've met the
Mm-hmm.
coaches there. Colin Garrity's a genius, and the Olympic lifting coach is Mike Service. I believe they have a PT that comes in as well. I'm not 100% sure what the curriculum and that kind of stuff is. They have like a jump rope specialist, but again, I just there's so many good things that are going on within the CrossFit community and the fitness community. Like there's a market for it because these camps
Yeah.
actually fill up. So, I'm not necessarily trying to compete. I'm trying to like think a little differently and actually maybe even a higher level kind of deal because you've been at this for over 10 years at this point, right, Scott? And you see how much benefit you can get even in a short amount of time by giving concepts to people and allowing them to practice it under supervision. So,
Yeah.
that would actually be, you would be a perfect person to help with this as well, like present your area of expertise, whether it is we do actually a kin stretch type work relative to the sport, or
Yeah.
I know that there's so many other movement and mobility areas that you'd be able to kind of go with, and all of these things kind of integrate into each other. So that I was thinking, I was like, all right, the whole platform of this could just be breathing. And how far can you go into that in a workshop? Well, you can learn 90-90, you could just learn basic concepts, but those basic concepts can be layered on top as we go into Scotty's stuff, and that's another
Down the
workshop.
day.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? And
Hmm.
then, oh
Yeah.
wow, that goes.
Pacing,
Yep,
movement with breathing, efficiency of a kind of a
exactly.
performance breathing, as we spoke of a week or two
And
ago.
then we go in from that and we say, okay, we're going to layer in complexity and technique with gymnastics prep, and that's where my partner Myra can work in with it. And then we go back into like Olympic lifting, and then in terms of like what we do as coaches, pacing, warm ups, and strategy for workouts, and that could be a
Hmm.
whole different aspect of it. But again, like I think you know, being mindful about what you're doing and not just doing it because it looks cool or it sounds sexy is what
Yeah.
I would kind of approach this type of camp workshop like. And I actually have somebody who does camps and travel team type stuff. He's an awesome guy who like knows everybody. Does it. He's basically like he'll take like 100 kids and send them to Spain, and they'll do soccer camps all over Spain or soccer tournaments all over Spain type thing. So he kind of does this kind of stuff all the time. So I'm just kind of thinking out loud a little bit and just kind of hearing what you have to think about this. Again, like who would
Yeah.
not want to be in South Florida in February? You know what I mean, or
Yeah.
in January.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think, because there's so many couples that do CrossFit as sport together too. So it becomes not only are we doing this, we get to take a little trip.
Yeah,
People. Yeah, I could see
have
that
it
being
have
a
it done
really
by like
fun and
5 o'clock each night. Like start off at
yeah,
like 8 a.m. You get like meals delivered to you, so like your lunch is taken care of, your breakfast is taken care of. You're done by 5. Maybe there's an activity that we all do. Like we have paddleboarding down here. We have like all sorts of other kind of stuff. That could be like a
yeah,
recovery deal where you're just having fun and doing that kind of thing.
yeah.
But then you're in right off Atlantic Ave in Delray Beach, and it's an awesome little destination town. There's places to eat. There's
Oh
places to
yeah,
go and see,
it's a great spot. I mean, for sure. Yeah,
so yeah, I was kind of thinking about that today, and I was actually throwing it because we're kind of like playing with the idea of doing a open prep style like once a week deal. But I'm like, you know what, maybe we go a little bit further and we do something a little bit more open to like maybe 10 to 15 athletes or something like that. Nothing like 40 or 50. I don't think we really have
yeah.
the
Get a number
facility.
where you can really give enough individual attention, that because
Yeah,
everybody will have slightly different needs, and it would be nice if
yeah, really get
everyone could be delivered.
exactly, and a limited amount of coaches that are actually going to do it to help really hit home the value of what this might be. So, it's just an idea I'm thinking about, and I think there's some local people who would love to do it, just to kind of like do a staycation slash get really focus
Yeah,
for 4 days or so on their open prep. Um, and again, like there's not a lot of people who actually have the availability of such a great area to do it in, and vice versa, like
totally.
doing a summer style one up in Portland, during the
That would
nicer
be
months
something
would
we.
be a
Yep,
really
totally.
cool thing. Like you're
Yeah,
done with the open, you've had your recovery time. Now it's time to think about off season training, and
off-season focused one. Yeah,
that in itself could be its own camp. It's like, all right, you're not trying to do the open right now, but it's like, all right, what areas do you need to work on? So, for instance, instead of the gymnastics being, okay, we're trying to maximize efficiency for the open, we're trying to be stronger in our gymnastics. How do we get better at strict work? How do we get better at planche work? How does that cross over into your regular
yeah.
CrossFit type training?
Yep.
So,
Yeah, implementation of straight arm strength as a prehab and structural balance tool, for example.
yeah.
There's a lot of areas that could all
Basic
go.
ideas of hanging work, how that's going to progress over 3 to 4 months before you actually get into your in-season type training.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know, I think it's a really cool, again, like I think it's a cool concept in general, but like the more we talk about it, the more we can kind of layer on the different things that
Yeah,
we might do.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
know that we've been talking for a long time now about how we could, do some kind
yeah.
of seminar or what. We don't really know what it was looking like, but something that we
Yeah.
might be able to
Sometimes
do.
it finally smacks you in the face like this,
Yeah.
like this seems pretty cool.
Well, again, as soon as I sat down and saw everybody within the house, like none of them knew each other prior to being in the house. But I think something about being in the house together in a commonality, like being in triathlon, I'm like, this would be sick for CrossFit, because
Yeah.
that anybody who's going to be doing a CrossFit camp is in a CrossFit. You're not like
Yeah. You
imposing something on somebody because they signed up for your
yeah.
classes.
Yeah, you can already make some pretty good assumptions and then that everyone generally has that common bonding,
Yeah,
and simply I saw a thing yesterday totally makes sense, how individuals when they move together bond it doesn't really matter what the modality of
yeah,
movement is. Ours happens to be CrossFit, but they bond much more quickly than groups doing things together in a non-movement manner.
yeah. That makes
So
sense.
obviously it clicks very quickly,
Yeah,
and so yeah,
makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, so something that maybe we could think about over the short time. I mean, we definitely have enough time before February if that's when we're going to do it, because we have all of September, October, November, December, and then January. So we're about five to
plenty of
six
time to
months
think
out.
about it, get the word out, figure
Yeah,
out what
yeah,
we're
yeah.
doing. Yeah,
And
yeah,
again, we don't need to recruit 40 or 50 people. If we had
no,
about, I think 15 people would probably be appropriate for it.
yeah.
You
And
know,
I have one of my longtime guys is in Miami, and he does the Open, and though we've worked together, I wouldn't be surprised if he would be on board for it. There's probably one right there.
It's interesting because I was thinking about like who would this be definitely up the gut for, and I love how like the Masters community is such a, because like when we think about the Masters community, I think a lot of them are open minded and they're looking for ways they can maximize their efficiency. They've kind of forgone their ego, so to speak. Whereas I think some younger athletes are like, well, I'm going to do this blog and I'm also doing my own programming. I'm going to layer in 531 Wendler and blah, blah, blah. Whereas,
Exactly right.
you know what I mean? And they're all doing it on their
Yeah,
own. And maybe financially, they may not have the resources also to do a camp that would, I'm thinking it's you're going to be 4 days at a resort style place. So, obviously it's going to be a little bit of money. It's not going to
yeah,
be like an online blah 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 where you're just kind of paying $99 for 12 weeks of programming. It's going to be a legit
right.
high level
Hmm.
training camp. And
Yeah.
for a masters athlete, I think that is who would benefit most
Oh
out of
yeah.
this,
Most. Yeah, for
just
sure.
because I think a lot of them just have just poor movement patterns that can be really aided with refinement of their concepts, and also everything that we've talked about before in terms of movement patterns.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Whereas I think younger athletes kind of get away with just being loosey goosey and that kind of thing. But again, I mean,
You
I'm
can get
not.
away with a little bit. Yeah, not optimal, but the Masters athlete has the most to gain from this.
Yes, yes, and it kind of goes back to what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead.
Oh, just to say, and honestly, I mean, they have to do really well at the Open if they're going to move on to the next
Yeah,
level. I mean,
good
it's
point.
not an easy task.
Yeah,
I
so
guess that's true in all levels, but nonetheless, I mean, it's
and that's something I go back to when I was actually doing biomechanical research and orthopedic research. I would do. I was doing a research project with a orthopedic surgeon. He specialized in arthroplasty, and he was like, in his mid 30s, and coincidentally, he actually moved to Oregon. He's at the Oregon Hospital for Health Sciences or something like that. I know
Oregon Health Sciences University.
that's
Oh,
it. Yeah,
is
so
he here? Is he here now?
I believe he's still there, and he specializes in joint replacement.
Interesting.
So we were doing a study. It was on a rabbit model, but I remember we would just talk and I'd pick his brain and that kind of stuff. He's like, all right, so what do you want to get into? What kind of medicine? I was like, I really want to get into sports medicine because I love sports and that kind of stuff. He's like, that's pretty much every orthopedic who gets into this stuff. They want to work on ACLs and that kind of stuff. He's like, but here's the thing. When you have a 17-year-old kid who gets Tommy John surgery, there's not that much upside. It's like you have a person who has a very high expectation of what you're going to do, and it's very rare that you're actually going to be able to meet that expectation. Yet, if you have a 7-year-old woman who rolls in because they have so much hip pain that they can't walk, and literally they're walking after the surgery, that's changing someone's life. So as much as I'm like, whoa, I want to do high performance stuff, like I really think that there's much less the coach can do there as opposed to working with athletes who are restricted by their own ability to move and conceptually and what they think they can do. I think there's so much more upside that a coach can do. I mean, it's cool, it's sexy to have people win competitions and that kind of stuff, but just my own in my own experience working with older athletes, I think there's a great upside here, and it's a niche that really hasn't been addressed very much yet.
Yeah, not much, and not terribly well when I have seen it addressed, honestly.
Yeah,
So,
like I mean, we can kind of talk a little bit about that. I've seen a few programs from some well-known, um, programming and coaching sites, and I look at the master's programming, and I scratch my head a little bit. I understand the demands of the sport, but you're going to kill people.
right. Yeah, that's the ones I've seen, I'm kind of same thing. I'm scratching my head. It's like, how is this different necessarily? Yeah,
that's
we're
exactly
still
right.
like roasting folks, And,
Yeah.
and I
again,
do understand at the high level, the masters athletes do have an amazing work capacity, usually layered on years and years of development from, if not CrossFit, other sports and activities they've done, right? So they can tolerate more, obviously, but I still think that there's some big holes in the way we would prepare masters athletes.
I mean, just look at what the masters athletes look and move like, and then base your training off of that. Like, you can't be doing chest to bar pull-ups 3 times a week if you're a masters athlete, especially if you don't move well. Like, there's no way. Like, I coach one of the best movers in masters CrossFit, and she doesn't do chest to bar pull-ups 2 to 3 times a week, and they're trying to get away. Like, it's one of those things that, like, how do you get better? Do you get better by doing that thing more? And again, that's a school of thought. Great, just do more chest to bar pull-ups. Or is it, do you want to improve the basic movement pattern and then just kind of do what the sport demands? And in my mind, I think that's the best way to approach it for a masters athlete because, Dan John, I think you actually probably have heard this one before. Dan John talked about when he was in his 50s, he was like, I have one great injury left, but I have no great recoveries left. So you're working with athletes who in a lot of ways don't have too many possibilities left. So I think there's much more of a responsibility toward these type of athletes to give them something that is definitely going to help and minimize the risk in the process.
Yeah, I think that's definitely it's risk management is. I've always felt I've worked with a lot of the program for a number of masters CrossFit athletes, and I have had some pretty good success. My best case was unfortunately when someone didn't take my advice and did something that I knew right away would cause injury, and it did, and it basically ended the career. So when it was all I took risk management. We trained hard, but we trained with a eye toward do no harm, and
that's it.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like if you're coaching masters athletes on a high level, like your first thing, instead of by all means, performance is replaced by do no harm. I think that's the biggest thing that coaches have to get across when coaching a masters athlete, because if they stay in the sport long enough and they accumulate enough repetitions and volume and get used to it, they're going to get better. Yeah. They're going to get better, and especially because you're practicing movement patterns that the longer they do them, the better they're going to get at them. And again, like in the long game for a lot of these athletes, it's not about winning the world championships and making a living off of it. It's about having fun in something that you want to do from the 35 to 39 category to the 60 plus category.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I don't see too many sponsored masters athletes that are at least getting anything meaningful out of it.
Exactly. They all have 9 to 5, so I think that has to be taken into consideration when you're coaching a masters athlete. So I think this is something that we can. I literally just thought about this morning, Scott. I kind of brought it on to you, but again, this is conversation.
Awesome.
So we had a conversation.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, Well, enjoy your time there away, and I hope everything back home stays
Same for you,
good. And
Scotty. Same for you, my man.
yeah, big bike jam this weekend. So this is my performance weekend tomorrow.
All
So
right, brother. Well,
we'll
good
see how that
luck to
goes
you,
next
man.
week.
Good
So
luck to you. Well, I'd love to hear all about it. We'll talk next week. All right, Scotty?
talk next week. Okay.
Beautiful.
Stay safe.
Take care, Scotty.
You too.
All right,
Bye,
bye.
Sean.